Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey, Croson here, and today we're going to be talking about 10 ways to improve your arm strength as a quarterback, and we'll start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab. Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become. All right, so as many of you guys know, I have a whole Throw 60 program that is really focused on improving arm strength, improving your ability to throw the ball further, and also add more velocity into it. And there's a lot of different concepts that we're constantly talking about when it comes to improving your ability to throw the ball both further and when adding velocity. And a lot of times both of those kind of carry over into each other. But today I just wanted to take a little bit of time and go into what I think are like the 10 most important parts of improving your throwing velocity. And these are not necessarily in a particular order, while I did try to make them the best that I could, from the top being most important to the bottom being not as important. But it's a little bit different for everybody, just because let's say if somebody has a really good follow through, but not a great wrist flick or not a great release, then obviously that's going to add more importance to the wrist flick, while the same could be true vice versa, right? You have a really good wrist flick, but don't have a good follow through with the arm after the wrist flick. Well, then for that particular person, it's going to be more important to have a better follow through. Now, again, in general, though, I tried to order these based off of the first one, which I said was the wrist flick, is I think the most important thing that you have to be able to understand what to do in order to, again, increase your velocity, increase your arm strength. And really what we want to be able to see when the ball is coming out of your hand is being able to get into a neutral position within the wrist. Okay, so we don't want to have too much bend happening as the ball is coming out of your hand. And then we want to be able to see a very distinct kind of downward action as that ball is coming out. We want to be really bringing the arm forward and across as the hand is, or as the ball leaves the hand. And we just want to be able to make that as much of a forward action as possible with the hand. So we don't want to end up going and rotating too much. There's a ton of different things that I've seen what people do with the wrist. I think that ends up being an important thing, and something that a lot of people talk about when it comes to being successful as a quarterback is just how well does the ball come out of the hand. Next thing is going to be the hip and shoulder separation. So essentially that is how well are we able to get your hips to be able to rotate and open up while also being able to keep your front shoulder closed. Okay, we've talked a lot about that. There's a lot of people that have done different studies and stuff like that that have been able to really show how important being able to create that hip rotation is, and your ability to then simultaneously keep your front shoulder closed. How that's really important in being able to add more strength to your throw. The third thing is going to be timing. We've talked about this in the past when it comes to timing. Essentially, how I've structured the timing is, first thing that we want to see is the front foot down. The second thing we want to see is the hip to open. Then we want to see the front shoulder open, right? Essentially, that's that hip and shoulder separation, right? Is being able to get the hip to open and simultaneously being able to delay that front shoulder from opening for as long as you possibly can. But the concept is we still want to be able to, if we look at the timing, we want to be able to have that hip open up and then that front shoulder open up. How much you can is, again, going to be a key contributor to how far you can throw, but we still need to be able to see that happening within the throw. Okay, then we're going to go elbow through, and then we're going to go with the release. Okay, that's really the main five there. We could say that number 6 could be the follow through. I don't want to take away from the importance of that, but really after you're releasing, you're kind of going through the follow through. If we want to be able to put a focus on the follow through, then that would be the 6th part, and that's going to be the timing. So that's the order. First, the front foot's down, then number 2, hip open, then front shoulder, then elbow comes through, then we will release the ball, and then we get the follow through. So just to see with Mahomes here, he has the front foot down, then we got the hip to open, then we get the shoulder to open, right? Front foot, hip, then shoulder. Okay, now we get the elbow through, then we get the release, and then we get the follow through. Okay, so that's going to be the timing. Timing's critical when it comes to improving your arm strength. You have to be able to have the proper timing within your entire body in order for you to be able to effectively throw the ball. Okay. Number 4 is going to be the arm action. So essentially what that just is what does the arm do as we're going through the throw? I see a ton of people do a bunch of unnecessary things as they're going through the throw. They lift the ball up. As they load, they let the nose of the football come all the way up. They let the ball get too far away from them. As their elbows coming through, they'll come around with the football, making it so the ball is getting further away from their head. As they release, they'll release and be coming across with the ball as they're releasing. Again, there's a ton of different types of things that we see with the arm action. And essentially what we want to be able to do to make it as understandable as possible is we want to be able to be as efficient as possible in the arm action. So, typically what we see with that in a lot of the top quarterbacks is from start to finish, can we get the ball out of your hand in 0.3 seconds? Let me use a better background there. 0.3 seconds, okay? At the most, 0.35, okay? But once you get above 0.35, from when the front hand leaves the football to when the ball comes out of your hand, now you are essentially inefficient with your arm action, and I would say you need to improve your arm action. Okay, number 5 is going to be effective weight distribution. So what that looks like is how well are we able to shift our weight from our back foot onto our front foot, and when do we do that? Essentially what that's getting to is people that land with this front foot and just immediately shift all of their weight onto that front foot and then are really throwing with all arm. Okay, we have to be able to really do a good job of loading into that back leg, right? And that's really number 6 is loading into the back leg, because that's an important part of being able to have effective weight distribution. Thought about making that 1, but weight distribution goes more into being able to get the front foot down, starting with more of like a rotation within that lower body, and then shifting your weight forward, as opposed to getting your front foot down and then immediately shifting your weight forward and then trying to rotate after that. That's really what people do when they're using too much arm when they're going through the throw. And then, like I said, number 6 is going to be loading that back leg. So we just want to be able to see, and what I usually tell people is as that back foot hits the ground, right, and we're getting ready to go through the throw, we really want to be able to see a large press down into the ground here. So with the ball of your foot, you want to be kind of pressing down into the ground. You want to have a bend in that knee, make it so now you can really load into that hip and now begin the process of being able to distribute that weight. That just allows there to be a little bit more force, a little bit more momentum behind the throw, which is, again, I think a really important thing of being able to add more overall strength. And that's a common thing that I see a lot of, especially younger quarterbacks do. They're just in such a hurry to get onto their front leg and maybe just have never been taught how to load their back leg and just the importance of loading that back leg, and therefore have a hard time being able to generate as much force within the throw. Number 7 is going to be the release or the follow through. So essentially that's just as the ball leaves your hand, what are we doing? What we want to be able to see is, and what I usually tell people is we want to be able to get that hand to come as much straight down as possible, right? So we want it to come down to like the other side front pocket, right? We don't want to end up allowing your hand to go too far off to the side. We can kind of see with Mahomes, he was going pretty far off to the side. I actually use this in his example just to show that you could have some success with coming across with the throw, right? You don't have to just come straight down with the throw, but regardless, we are getting a release, we're getting a follow through, and really the follow through also pertains to as the ball is coming out of your hand, where is the weight distribution? So we could see with Mahomes, and we see with all these guys that are able to put a lot on the ball, they release the ball, and their follow through, they're shifting their weight forward. Okay, so you could see with me, as opposed to that, I'm really falling off more to the side. All right, so we're looking at one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in comparison to, somebody that's definitely not even close to the NFL, right? And you could just see where my weight distribution is as I follow through the throw, how my weight ends up kind of shifting off to the side. That's definitely having a negative impact on my throw in comparison to how well Mahomes is coming forward as he releases the ball here. Okay, another big thing is going to be stride length. Okay, I see a lot of people that are really short with their stride. Okay, and because of how short they are with the stride, they limit how much overall weight distribution they could have. Okay, while these are all different things, it doesn't mean that they don't go into each other. They probably all actually go into each other. So it's not like one's not more important than the other. I think all these are going to be really important. What we're looking to be able to understand is which one is going to be most important to you and could be most effectively used to be able to improve your throwing mechanic. Again, next one's going to be stride length. We got to be able to get a good stride length. Typically, what I tell people is you want to have your feet about a foot width wider than your hips, right? I mean, we can see with Mahomes, he's a little bit wider than that, okay? But if we were going to say his hips are here, okay, we'd want to have his foot length wider than that would be, where you want to go. I would say from his front hip, his left hip to his left foot would be closer to what that recommendation would be. While this is obviously a lot more, okay? I wouldn't say that he's overstriding. This is just kind of a general rule of thumb that I use. I do think that quarterbacks at times do get too long of a stride, especially if it takes them too long to get their front foot down. Okay, it's important to understand, we need to get this front foot. When you're loading here, we need to get this front foot down. Okay, sometimes people will go way too far outside with that front foot and just keep it off the ground too long. So then as soon as this front foot hits, they're, again, immediately shifting all of their weight forward. Okay, see how he's doing a good job of, even though his front foot's hitting, he's keeping that weight back, and he's really rotating here a lot more. He's not just allowing all that weight to come forward. That's, again, going into that weight distribution. So if you have too long of a stride, you may end up just shifting all of your weight right away onto your front leg. And then if you don't have enough of a stride, then really you're not going to get any weight distribution at all. So for most guys, I try to get them to get a little bit longer stride. I know it's a big thing with quarterback coaches that try to shorten up quarterback strides. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that we do need to be able to have a little bit more range that we want to be seeing within their weight distribution, and I think that will really make a big difference within the throwing power, throwing distance. Next one's going to be range of motion, okay? And when we talk about range of motion, we're talking about external rotation in the shoulder. We're talking about the ability to fully rotate within that hip, okay? A lot of what ends up being balance issues, okay? So if you can't balance effectively on this front leg, a lot of times balance ends up being something that is related to range of motion, okay? So if you're tight or stiff within an ankle, then you're typically not going to be able to balance as well within that ankle. Same thing with spine rotation, again, hip rotation, obviously shoulder range of motion, all those things are another critical part of throwing distance, okay? And then I'd say the last one is going to be strength or having long levers. I do think that there is definitely something to be said for being taller, having those longer levers. I think that definitely helps out when it comes to throwing distance. But if you don't have the long levers, right, if you don't have the size or the length naturally, and also the range of motion, because a lot of times with those really natural throwers, we'll see both length and range of motion, and those both correlate well to throwing distance. If you don't have those long levers, then you definitely have to be able to make up with it with some strength. And I do think even if you do have long levers, that if the more strength that you have within the rotator cuff, the core, the hip extensors, the hip rotators, really all the muscles that are going to be impacting the throw, your grip, all those things are critical when it comes to being able to add distance into the throw. So if you have long levers and also have strength and range of motion, now you're really setting yourself up to be able to have a lot of distance within the throw, especially if we add in there good wrist flick, good hip and shoulder separation, good timing, right? Those things are all critical when it comes to being able to effectively throw the football. Now, these 10 things are really designed to be able to make a very clear understanding of really some things that are going to help you in improving the throw. Hopefully, by giving you guys some visuals here, you can get an understanding of what those 10 things look like. I would be happy to answer any questions or anything like that. If you guys have anything that you'd want to look a little bit more into, you can leave comments. You can reach out to me, whatever ends up being the easiest for you. As always, if you like the information, click that thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a ton. If you know anybody that would benefit from this information, then sending that over to them, sharing the video, that also helps us out a ton and can potentially help them out a ton. So we highly recommend you doing that. And as always, check out some of the things we have in the description, right? We have the quarterback program. I think that's a great thing for people that are looking to improve their throwing mechanics, improve their throwing distance. And with that, we have a full like strength program that we go through. It's like a personalized strength program, kind of depending on the age and the things that you want to work on as a quarterback. We'll be able to tailor the workouts accordingly, but giving you a good understanding of the not only mechanics, but also what it's going to take from a just discipline and commitment level to improve the throw, I think is important within that program. So we have different throwing regimens that you have to do. We have a lot of video tutorials as well to help you understand. I've been doing this for a long time now, so I have a lot of videos to help you in understanding how to incorporate some of this stuff into your throw. We also have Quarterback University. It's kind of a separate thing than the quarterback program. It has a lot of the same type of things that are available. I do like the Quarterback University a little bit more just because it organizes the videos a little bit more effectively, so it's easier for you to access a lot of different things, and it's more of a subscription model, right? So it's going to be something that you pay a monthly fee for, and you get, again, the personalized programming, you get some coaching sessions, you really get a lot of things to be able to help you out with being able to throw the football. So if you're interested in either one of those, go ahead and check those out in the description down below. Again, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.